Hey folks, I'm Scotty Blades, and I watched Rebel Moon, so you don't have to. And here's my review. Before going into this movie, I consider myself to be a Zack Snyder fan. When I think of Zack Snyder, I think of a couple of my favorite adaptations of graphic novels, of 300, which probably is still in my top 10 favorite movies ever, and then The Watchmen, which I thought he did an incredible job with that. I like the way that Zack Snyder shoots movies. It's like Michael Bay, but better. And I like Michael Bay movies. I love explosions. Bam, bam, boom. The way that Zack shoots his movies with the lighting and the set pieces and the way that the scenes glow, I really just like the way he makes movies. I was actually very excited to check this movie out. If I understand right, Zack Snyder approached some people at Star Wars about doing a Star Wars movie for them, and they said no. So Zack Snyder was kind of like, oh yeah, and then he went and made his own Star Wars. And he kind of does that. Like when he released Justice League, people didn't like it. I didn't like it. And then he's like, oh yeah, well, that's not the movie I wanted to produce. I actually have the Snyder Cut. And then he released that, and I liked it. I thought the Snyder Cut of Justice League was pretty good. This movie has not been critically acclaimed from what I've seen before I go into the review, but did I like the movie? With his track record of having about as many duds as he has good movies, I wouldn't call myself skeptical, but I also didn't go into this movie thinking, holy crap, this is going to be the best movie ever. I went in thinking, I hope I'm pleasantly surprised. So the background behind this movie is that it takes place in a galaxy, a distant galaxy, far, far away. And the Mother World, which is the big bad empire in this universe, it's a militaristic empire that's been fueled by centuries and centuries of war and conquest, yada, yada, yada. All empires are built on blood. And the king, played by Cary Elwes, I can't pronounce his last name. I'm Appalachian, forgive me. But Cary Elwes plays the king. And this king, he's kind of towed the line. He's done the war thing. And then he's like, I'm tired of it. I'm getting burnt out. I don't want to be war guy no more. He ends up having a kid, a daughter, and her name is Princess Issa. And Princess Issa is, she possesses this gift. They introduce magical, supernatural things throughout the movie, but it's not like Star Wars where people are using the Force, or like Lord of the Rings where people are having wizard fights with sticks. But she is rare in the fact that she has the power of healing and resurrection. She can bring creatures back from the dead. And the King's like, this is great. This is going to be our anchor. This is what we're going to use to stop all the war. This is going to be the unifying factor that I can use to focus the empire so that we can, usher in a new era of peace and tranquility. Well, poo on you, because he gets assassinated and so does she at her coronation in front of everybody. It's a public assassination. And this guy, who I call a different name the entire review and the movie, but his name is Balisarius, which is not a dinosaur with prestigious sex organs. He is a high-to-do senator who declares himself the regent. That name sucks. It sucks so much that I called him Ballsack throughout my entire viewing process of the movie. It's a terrible name, and I will too refer to him throughout this review as Ballsack. So Senator Ballsack declares himself Regent Ballsack. He's in charge now. And instead of going the peace way, he's like, nah, I like war. And he cranks up the war engine at the Empire, and he sends out his lackey, Admiral Atticus Noble. And this guy is played by Ed Skrein. And man, does he really encapsulate evil. He's one of my favorite characters in this movie because he's just so nasty and he just makes you feel yucky whenever he's on screen. He very much looks like and plays the part of the Nazi soldier commander kind of thing. I can't say that word on YouTube. So the kind of evil bad guys that try to take over the world back in the 40s, but we kick their butts. He does a great job of playing that type of character. And he's also very good, as you'll see through the movie, of the manipulation and he actually reminds me of Christopher Waltz's character from Inglourious Bastards. And you'll see why here in just a minute. The way that he comes at you with honey, and then he splashes you with vinegar. And by vinegar, I mean a bone staff, which is a pretty cool weapon. So Ballsack sends his right-hand man, Admiral Noble, out to the far reaches of the universe to quell a rebellion. So ever since he's taken over, the people who bought into the peace thing that the king was talking about, well, they still want peace, and they have started a rebellion. So they've sent Admiral Noble out to quell the rebellion. So then we pan over to this Viking planet, this farmer planet. And on this farmer planet, we're introduced to the chief of the tribe of this planet, Sindri, who is played by Corey Stoll. I like everything Corey Stoll does. I'm just a huge fan of him as an actor, and he does a pretty good job in this. But this is the beginning of a problem that carries through for the rest of the movie, where I just don't care what anybody is saying. It's like there's no substance or personality to any of the characters. When they speak, they just say, it's almost like placeholders in a script. This character needs to be the village elder who protects the people. This character needs to be the father figure who leads the hero on a journey of self-discovery. But they don't give them personality. It's just they place these lines in each character's mouth with no flavor. It's just vanilla commentary, and I hated it. That's one of the big things I hate about this movie was the script. As far as the dialogue from the characters, they just bah, 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 and there's nothing behind it. It's just like drinking Diet Right 0 calorie. It's there, it's fizzy, it's playing its part, but it has no substance to it. So we're on this planet now, and this planet is a farming planet. And they set it up to, like, we know we're in the future and it's space, but these are simple people. And they do simple things. They're farmers, and they plant seeds, and they sow those seeds, and then they blast their seed. Because as we find out, the village is, like, going through a time of great production. And they're making a lot of seed, and they got money, and they got food, and they're happy. So, like, Sindri just basically says, drink some beer tonight, screw some people, things are going great. Isn't it great to be one of us? Then they introduce another character, and they just hype this guy up. He's the biggest, baddest hunter you've ever been around. And guess what? That's it. This guy plays no importance for the rest of the movie whatsoever. They hype this guy up. The character's name is Din, and he's played by Stuart Martin. And he comes in, and everybody's like, this guy's the best hunter ever. We gotta be cool with him. And then they keep referencing him, and then the main character of the movie, Cora, who's played by Sofia Boutella. They keep saying, oh, you two should hook up because, like, you're the coolest chick on the planet and he's the coolest guy on the planet. And you guys are meant to be together. And we love screwing. Why ain't you guys screwing? That's the gist of that guy's character development. He's a good hunter. You should screw him. That's it. But they do establish the fact that the planet has got plenty of food, plenty of money. They're good to go. And then the next day, a warship shows up. And that warship is Admiral Noble's warship. This is where I get the Inglourious Bastard style of approach with the honey and then the vinegar. Noble shows up, and he's just bragging about the land. And one of my favorite things about this scene, and several scenes throughout the movie, is that when they land the spaceships, like the hover engines, they blow out, energy. The people are standing under it and getting pelted with rocks and debris and all sorts of crap. It happens several times in the movie. Instead of standing there and getting pelted, you know that these things do that. Just stand somewhere else instead of getting, like, road rash, the equivalent of road rash. But Noble lands, he gets out, he speaks with the town chief, Sindri, and he's like, I love your planet, and it looks bountiful, and I know you guys have seed. Could you just spare a little seed for the Empire, the people who keep you protected? And the chief's like, I can't. We don't have any extra, but can I interest you in a beer? So he keeps trying to get Noble to go up to the town square, the town hall, to get a beer. And Noble keeps going, but your people look so happy and lively and, you know, pearly white teeth and ample bosoms, and everybody looks so healthy and happy. How could you be malnourished? How could you not have an extra seed? And Sindri's like, well, you know, you must understand that the elevation and the rocks and all that stuff like that, it makes the land, for the most part, barren. We barely get by. So Noble keeps talking like, it doesn't make any sense. And Sindri keeps saying, but don't you want a beer? They go to the town hall, and at the town hall, everybody's there. The hunter guy that's supposed to be so important, and then Cora, and another character I forgot to mention because he's kind of a dumb character. He's introduced at the very beginning of the game. He's introduced at the very beginning of the movie. He's the first person that Cora talks to while she's plowing the field. And the character's name is Gunner, and he's played by Mikael Huisman. Now, I'm Appalachian. I butcher everything, including the deer that I hunt, so forgive me. Gunner's only redeeming quality, he's kind of the Han Solo of the movie, kinda. They mention, and the poor guy just gets it the entire movie. He's just a simple farmer, just a dumb, no good, simple farmer, which the world needs farmers. They're some of the greatest heroes of any civilization. They produce what keeps us alive. But I guess in a universe of war-torn disasters and warriors, a farmer doesn't do a whole lot. And they mention it the whole movie. He's just a farmer. But we find out that he's been doing some dirty dealings on the side. He has been supplying the rebellion with grain for profit, which is why I keep calling it an island, which is why the planet is doing so well, because Gunner has been selling seed. I almost said weed. He's been selling seed to the good guys under the Empire's nose for profit. So we're all here in the town hall. We got all the major players. We got the town chief. We got Cora. We got the hunter guy that we'll never see again the rest of the movie. We got Gunner. And Gunner is kind of trying to tell the chief to go, hey, we kind of effed up in the past. What if we take the seed that we're selling the rebellion and we sell it to the Empire for quadruple the profit? And the chief's like, no. So then we have a back and forth between the chief and Noble, where the Noble keeps saying, you know, what's it going to take to get a little bit of seed? And the chief's like, we don't have any seed. Can I interest you in a beer? Gunner speaks up like an absolute ass. And he's like, the chief's just trying to protect us and make sure that we don't starve. We got plenty of seed in reserve, and we'll give it to you for quadruple the price. Well, that pisses Noble off, as anybody would be, to be bold-faced lied to your face over and over and over. Bold-faced, face. So he's like, you know what we do to liars around here? And he grabs this bone staff that has more screen time than 90% of the characters in the movie, and he whacks the chief with it. Game over. Empire wins. Whacks the chief. Chief's out of play. And he basically turns to the group and he's like, you guys have 10 months to make me 10 bajillion seeds, which is way more than they can do and survive. So they'll all basically die. He's like, I'll be back in 10 months. Have my seed. And he leaves. Before he leaves a contingent of what's basically the stormtroopers of this universe. And these stormtroopers are a-holes. Real just bully pieces of shit. And then they introduce us to another character who is quite possibly the stupidest character in this entire movie. And that's a real shame because he could be cool. He's voiced by Anthony frickin' Hopkins. And they give him like one paragraph of description, one paragraph of storytelling, one paragraph of world building. He is the last, what I'm assuming is the last, of an elite special operations group of robot knights. And they were very loyal to the king and just did whatever the king wanted them to do, and they were the best unit in the whole universe and the whole army. When the king died, the robots just quit. And they've not been an attack robot or done anything lethal since then. They bully Jimmy, but Jimmy's special. And I don't know why they would call an assassin robot Jimmy. You know, or like Ed or Bob. But yeah, that's his name, Jimmy. That's the most screen time this guy gets, with the exception of one more incident that comes up, and then that's it. Such a cool character. They give him one paragraph of dialogue, One paragraph of world building, he's out the rest of the movie. Except for one scene at the end of the movie, which is my favorite scene. And also, again, for some reason, they've just pooped all over this character. It's the stupidest scene in the whole movie. Fast forward to the barn. This character who is the water girl for the village, just like, she's out getting water at like 2 o'clock in the morning, which doesn't make any sense. And all the troopers are inside the barn drinking and cutting up and being just real assholes, real big bullies. They see her and they're like, okay, it's plug-in time. And they go grab her and they pull her in, and then there's like 9 of them all holding her and they're getting ready to do their thing. Cora sees this and she's like, I can't allow it. And they've kind of hinted that she's a badass at this part of the movie, but then we get to see it. And this fight scene's really good. She shows up and she just waylays an entire squadron of these guys basically by herself until the very end. At the very end, she's at a stalemate with the commander of the group, and Jimmy shows up. Jimmy shows up, and this water girl has been nice to him like a couple minutes before this fight happened and put a little wreath on his head. Put a little wreath on his head and said, "You're special, Jimmy, I can tell." Jimmy shows up. He picks up a gun off of the ground. The commander's like, take Cora out, shoot her. He pulls the trigger and he shoots the commander. Then he drops the gun and he runs off into the night with his little flower crown. And that's the gist of his, we see Jimmy one more time. Cora was reluctant to resist or rebel against the Empire because she's got a past with the Empire. We find out more about it in a little bit. But she said, she's like, well, I killed an entire cadre of troopers. I guess now I need to find a way to stop, because they're going to come down here for revenge, especially when they come back in 10 months and their whole cadre of troopers is dead. They're going to want to waylay us. So we need to get an army. We need to reach out to the resistance so that we can fight back. And she reaches out to Gunner. Gunner, the dumb farmer who is no good to nobody, and he's weak and useless. This is where the Han Solo thing kind of comes in with Gunner, to where Gunner does have connections where he's been selling the seeds, like smuggling it under the table. And he's like, yeah, I know how to get a hold of the resistance. So Cora's like, well, let's go. Before Cora leaves, we find out a little bit more about Cora. Turns out Cora crash landed on that planet sometime in the past. And when she crash landed, she was an adult at the time when she crash landed, but her adopted father, who's named Hagen, I didn't mention him up to this point in the review because he's a placeholder. He has no relevance whatsoever. He doesn't do anything to make you care about him, other than when Cora crash landed on the planet, instead of telling her to beat feet and get back out to the universe where she belongs, they brought her in and made her one of them. He hands her a gun, and this gun is a special gold-plated, chromed-out, bling-blinging blaster. And he said, you crashed with this, and I hung on to it, but we never needed it because we are farmers and we don't use guns. But here's your gun back. There's a familiarity with Cora and the gun, so you can tell that this gun means something to her, which starts to tell us about her past. So in order to get off the planet, they need a ship. So they go to this small town on the planet that they're on, and they're looking for information on a character named General Titus, who is played by Digimon Hunsu. Again, Appalachian, probably butchered the name. This guy, I love this guy as an actor. He always plays the coolest, most mysterious, most badass of all characters. But he is General Titus, and Cora and General Titus have a past, or she knows about Titus from her past, and she knows that he has fought in the resistance before, so she's looking for him. They go to the bar. Of course, when you're looking for information at a bar, things go south. They get into a fight. This introduces us to another character, played by Charlie Hunnam, known as Kai. This is one of the biggest travesties of the movie. Charlie Hunnam is a fantastic actor, and he's a relatively very well-known actor, more so than probably anybody else short of maybe Digimon, and they barely use him. And the other stupid part about this character introduction is he's off in the corner doing shady shit. He's got a hood up and he's doing shady shit. When this fight breaks out, he helps them. Walks up, loots the guys that he kills during the fight, and then says, I heard you're looking for information. Come with me and I'll take you where you need to go. And Cora's like, why? Call me an opportunist. That's it. That's it. He sees somebody looking for information, joins the group. It's one sentence. Hey, I heard you guys looking for information. We are. I can help you. Come with me. Okay, that's it. They go with this guy to his ship. We're just led to believe up to this point in the movie that Kai is a smuggler and a criminal. We figured that out. So now in this ragtag bunch of the Resistance, we'll call them the Magnificent Seven, the space version of the Magnificent Seven. We got Cora, the mysterious assassin from the past. We got Gunner, the helpless farmer. And we got Kai, who's had 2 sentences of dialogue and background, and we assume he's a smuggler and a criminal. He's also well-connected, so he takes them to recruit other people. He takes them to an additional location to talk to a guy he's done business with in the past. This guy is kind of a black market trader. He's kind of a slaver, I guess you could say. But he's got a dude locked up by the name of Tarek, played by Staz Nair. I don't know why this guy gets more screen time, and it's, oh my God. This guy gets more screen time than anybody else in the entire movie. He gets it, and then that's it. And he doesn't wear a shirt for the entire movie. And it bugs me. Every time they show him, he's flexing with his pecs pulled in and his abs. You could wash clothes off of them. They're so ripped. But we find out that Tarek owes this slaver guy or this black market guy some kind of debt. And he's honorable. Tarek's an honorable guy. And he always pays his debts. So he's went from, he's also alluded to of being some kind of nobleman. He comes from a fancy family. So now he's a blacksmith for the slaver. And until he pays off his debt, he's got to stand here and blacksmith for the slaver. They don't have the money to pay off his debt, so the guy just offers. Now, this dude, Tarek, does a service for him. He's the blacksmith in his black market trading operation. And he obviously, really wants him to stay there because his debt's some god-awful amount and he's chained to the place. But just like that, just to speed the plot along, he's like, well, you guys can't afford them, but I do like to gamble. Which is so stupid. And he's like, yeah, well, here's the deal. If Tarek can tame this hippogriff-looking monster that's over in this horse pen, going absolutely ballistic with 9 guys trying to tie it down. If Tarek can tame this hippogriff, he's yours. If he doesn't, you're all mine, and I'm going to chain you all here with Tarek, if he lives, and you guys can be my slaves. And they're all like, okay. Never met this dude. They don't go into detail about any special skills that he has. Just, they show up. The guy's like, I like to gamble. And then they're like, we like to gamble too. And then they go gambling. What we get next is one of the most unnecessary and unappealing and unentertaining segments in the movie. But it's the most background that they give of any of the posse. More background than they give Kai, more background than they give Cora, more background than they give Gunner. It all belongs to Tarek. Tarek shows up, abs shining in the sun, and he tells all the people to get off of this hippogriff, he's mine, and then he ends up walking up to him and speaking some native language to the bird that apparently the bird understands. And then him and the bird bond, and the bird takes off, and for some stupid-ass reason, we get 10 minutes of him flying all over the place on this stupid bird, and then the bird's tries to buck him like a horse, and does buck him once successfully, and then the guy does a leap of faith from a rock cliff onto the back of the hippogriff, and then the hippogriff's like, oh, okay, you can jump. Now, the hippogriff can fly, or the Griffin, whatever that thing's called. Gryffindor. But the giant bird lion's like, oh, you can fly? And then they're friends forever. And the bird's bonded. And that's Tarek's special ability, is that he bonds with animals. Now, this is a space war fought between ships with laser guns, and his special power is abs, and he can speak with animals. That's the guy that you want to recruit. Whatever, man. He gets back, and the slaver is a man of his word. He's like, all right, well, I gambled and I lost. You're a free man. As he's leaving, for some dumb reason, the slaver decides to go over and is like, well, if he can tame him, I can too. And the bird kills him immediately. And it pans to Tarek, and Tarek's like, good girl. Like Tarek told the bird to rip the... Whatever, man. They recruit Tarek, and then I don't know if I yawned, or if I stood up to get a snack, or if I fell asleep, but we're suddenly whisked to another planet to recruit somebody else. When I say that they landed the ship and then stepped out, and this person's standing there, and then this person goes and fights a monster, and then gets on the ship and leaves, and that's how they recruit her, that's exactly what happens. They land, get off a ship, and they talk to this character by the name of Nemesis, which is such a cool name. But she's a cyborg samurai, and she is a badass. But I cannot stand the actress that plays her. She's so... Maybe not the actress that plays her, but the way that she played it. Yeah, she's a cyborg. I get that. But man, is she dull. The facial expressions that she makes, but they try to humanize her because she has a conversation. She leads them to this spider pit, and the spider has kidnapped a kid. This giant dryad monster has kidnapped a kid, and she's like, whatever you guys have done to my planet, it's poisoned my eggs, and my eggs won't produce babies, so I took one of yours. And they have a conversation back and forth about what being a mother's about. All right? Even though this chick's a cyborg samurai, she's humanized, right? But her facial expressions and the way that she talks throughout her few minutes of movie time that she gets is stiff and uninteresting and boring. But when she fights, it's badass. So she ends up coming to blows with this giant dryad spider monster. And it's a life or death fight. She's fighting a 10-foot tall spider monster. Nobody else gets involved. Nobody. And things start to like swing towards her losing this fight. And didn't they not come here to recruit her? They did come here to recruit her. So they're all just... And the worst part about the fight is that the camera pans to them. And they're like, ooh, oh, oh, during the fight. And they're like, they scream, and Kai screams. And yeah, because she's getting her butt kicked at times. Aren't you trying to recruit this chick? Get in there and kick some ass with her. But they don't. They watch because this is her moment to shine. This is her... Each character gets a spotlight. Her spotlight is land, walk the party to a fight. She fights them alone. She beats them. And again, the combat in this movie is really good. They introduced their version of the lightsaber. Now, she pulls out these two thick, butcher-looking dull blades. And she's whipping them around, and she's doing some damage. But she ends up activating them. And they burn red hot. I keep saying this about this movie, but they end up showing another really stupid scene where she takes the red hot swords and she digs into the ground to show that they're like lightsabers. And then the monster roars at her, seeing that she just cut the ground, and like death charges her. And she, of course, dies. The cyborg samurai slides under, cuts her in her butt sack, and then they have a close-up and she dies because her butt sack's hurt and she gets stabbed. Whatever. That's it. And then in classic Gunner walks up and he's like, oh, that was pretty good. And then she gives him a speech about how he's stupid. Yeah, well, there is no honor in killing somebody when there's no honor. You be good to remember that. And Gunner's like, I'm just a simple farmer. All right, she's recruited. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's all you get. They spotlight her. She's a badass. And she's really good at fighting with lightsabers. Let's get out of here. We got to go recruit somebody else. It then pans to them flying to a moon to recruit Titus. Titus, the first person that she wanted. Titus, this disgraced Imperium commander who is now a prize fighter at a coliseum. He's one of the few characters that they have planted a couple of seeds to be like, all right, this guy is supposed to be awesome. They land on the planet. I shit you not, within 2 seconds, he's recruited and they're already off the planet. They land, they see the Coliseum, they meet a guide. The guide's like, General Titus. He's drunk in the streets with like rats playing on his chest. It then pans to the same guide giving him an awkward shower. And then Cora walks up and says, join us. And he's like, no. And she's like, you must. No. But you're the general, and don't you want to fight for something? Stop calling me general. But we need you because remember your past? My past. He don't even say that. He's just like, I'm in. That's it. 2 sentences of dialogue, placeholder, and like Cora gets emotional, but for what? For what? She yells and screams and gets teary-eyed. We're not attached to anything that she's saying. It's nonsense. It's just placeholder script. What about your past? I don't want to remember my past. Yeah, but you're soldiers. Oh, I'm in. And that's it. And that's how General Titus joins. And that's all you get about General Titus. He's not, they don't talk about him the rest of the movie. We then get a little bit of character development. A little bit. Cora goes and talks to Gunner, and Gunner didn't ask, she just tells him, I used to be an assassin, bodyguard, super soldier for the Empire. And the guy running the show now, Ballsack, came to my planet, killed everybody but me for some reason, raised me to be a super soldier, and then not only was I a super soldier, but I also became Kingsguard, and I was personally responsible for guarding the princess, and she's dead, and I feel guilty, and that's why I'm on the run. There's a small conversation after they have this that they can't defend against Noble's giant warship, which is called the King's Gaze. And again, just that name is cool. The concept of this universe is cool. The Empire, the way that it's described and it's ran, is cool. Even these characters that they didn't bother to make us care about, they're all pretty cool. It's the way I feel is that Zack Snyder knows the story, but he's in such a hurry to tell it that he just assumes that you know what he knows. Of course, General Titus is a badass because we frame him to be, but we won't tell you why. Of course, Kai is a really cool smuggler dude. We frame him to be, but we won't tell you why. Of course, you know, Nemesis is a badass samurai cyborg. We could tell you, but just remember that fight with the spider monster? Yeah! It just feels so rushed, and it feels so empty. It's like the character development and the storytelling in this movie is like a jelly-filled donut. You got the donut, there's nothing inside of it. You bite into the jellyfish donut, jelly-filled, not jellyfish, and you rip it, and there's nothing there. Like the frame is there, like it's the substance, but there's nothing in there. It just feels empty. The whole movie just feels empty. So once again, this is where Gunner comes in being kind of Mr. Connections. They know they can't fight Noble's ship. So they decide to go after a group called Clan Blood Axe, which sounds awesome, right? And they're actually mentioned a couple times throughout the movies being this brother, sister. They're the leader of the rebellion, basically. And they're mentioned a couple times. The Empire's looking for them. That's the whole reason why Noble's out here, is to find the Blood Axes. That's a cool name. Gunner tells the group, well, I've had dealings with them. They've got ships. Let's go talk to them. And they're on a planet run by a alien king called King Levitica. And this planet and this king, they're kind of like a neutral planet. They don't get involved, but if you come there, they'll take care of you, feed you, fix you up, and send you back out. And that's where the Blood Axes are hanging out right now. Gunner and the group show up, and they approach the Blood Axes, and I shit you not, 2 sentences of dialogue, and one of the Blood Axes is recruited. They walk up, and the Blood Axes is almost kind of like a Guardians of the Galaxy, the Ravagers. they're kind of a motley group of individual mercenary soldiers, kind of, ran by the brother and the sister. They approach them. They're like, hey, guys, we need your help to fight against the Empire. They say no initially. And then Gunner's like, yeah, but what about that one time we fed you guys with our grain? That's all it takes for Brother Blood Axe to get involved. He's like, they got a point. They did feed us that one time. So his sister's like, time out. Let's go have a talk. Him and the sister go over there and they talk. And she's like, I can't come with you on this. It's dumb. And he's like, but I'm honor bound because they did feed us grain that one time, so I have to. And she's like, well, okay. And that's how he gets recruited. He says, no, but we get you grain that one time. You know what? I know I'm fighting the rebellion against the Empire, but you guys did give me grain that one time. He goes, but he turns around and is like, I can't do this alone. I need all of you. And he gives a big Morpheus Matrix-style speech where he walks back and forth in front of his commander group, and he gives a big speech, and he's like, who of you will come with me? Nobody says anything, and then some stragglers walk up, and he's like, he's bound all of them. The first one that walks up, she's like, well, throws a gun over her shoulder. I can't let you go into this fray by yourself, like always, or something like that. And he laughs like a knowing laugh, like, yeah, we have a history. We'll never know it. They never tell us the history. She just walks, some random person we don't know who she is. They don't even name her, I don't think, in the movie. She just walks up and is like, here we go again, like old times, right? I can't let you just take off by yourself like always. I'm always your co-pilot. And he's like, yeah, you are. But that's what is assumed. They don't tell us anything. And a couple of other folks walk up, and then Blood Axe turns around and we're with you guys now, or whatever. So our heroes leave. The Empire shows up and raises the entire planet. Kills everybody except for the king. And Noble smacks the king with his cool bone staff. Again, the bone staff has had more screen time than any of the hero characters in this entire movie. But he cracks the guy with the bone staff because he gets the information aboard the Blood Axes have went, or the heroes have went. And then we pan to the big fight of the movie, like the big crescendo of the movie. As they're flying away on their next little rendezvous, Kai walks up and tells Korra, I'm a smuggler and I'm a criminal, but I don't want to be. I want to turn over a new leaf and I want to be a hero. But before I do that, I got to make one more stop to somebody that I got some cargo for, because they're not the kind of people to let me go. They're the kind of people to hunt me down the rest of my life, so I need this. But it's the one part of the entire movie where they're given an opportunity to develop character and they don't. Charlie is trying his very best to make something of this role that he's been cast for, and Korra's just repeating everything that he says. You want me. I want you. Well, you need me. I need you. Well, you got me. I got you. And that's the gist of how the conversation goes. But they end up going to this planet to do a dropping of cargo smuggling operation, and then things pop off. While on the loading dock, with Kai doing his shady dealings, he shady deals with a person that Korra remembers seeing in the bar earlier, where she had the confrontation and she was trying to get information on General Titus. And then she says something's not right, and then like a shuttle ship from the King's Gaze comes down and just starts blasting the place to smithereens, just shooting everything, shooting all the Blood Axe ships, shooting all sorts of stuff. Kai turns on them, and all of these crates turn into jail cells, walk-in jail cells, which is actually pretty cool. And we see that walk-in jail cell at the very beginning of the movie. So these walk-in jail cells pop up, and then all of the heroes, all of these like Tarek and his ability to talk to animals, and the cyborg samurai Nemesis, and the great General Titus, the champion prize fighter, they're all caught. Korra, this badass personal King Guard assassin, they're all caught. Beep, bap, boop, done, over with, captured. And then there's a little bit of dialogue between Korra and Kai's like, yeah, I betrayed you. What do you expect? I'm a smuggler, and you guys are worth a lot of money, all of you guys. And then we find out that Korra's real name is Archimedes. Korra has a real name that I can't remember. It's like Angel Titus or something like that. And she's legendary in the Empire. And she's the most wanted person in the Empire because she's Balsac's adopted daughter. Noble lands and gets off of the shuttle ship and just is full of himself and walks up and is like, yeah, I got you. And then for some stupid reason, Kai gives a device that it's a torture device of sorts. It is similar to like a cattle prod, it was made famous in the movie No Country for Old Men. It's a really quick, humane way of taking something out, like a pressurized drill that just pops in and pops out, and then you're unalived. And what they do is they take this drill prod thing, stick it in the back of the jail cell where the guy's neck is at, and they take it and they spin it in, and then you pull the button, and the device goes through the back, severing the connection between the head and the spine, and you're dead. For some reason, Kai goes to, and what's funny about this is that they brought everybody a jail cell except the farmer, to just really drive home of how incapable and unthreatening that this guy is. Kai gives him the cattle prod, and he's like, you have to do it. Show me how brave you are. He doesn't say, or you'll die, or nothing. He just keeps calling him a coward. He says, you'll do it, because you ain't a coward. Kai puts the drill gun into the back of the thing, and he's getting ready to pull the trigger, and he's like, not today! And he pulls it out and turns around, and in one of the dumbest scenes, this guy has been built up to be just this most inept guy in the world, and then Kai is supposed to be like, Kai out-dueled a dude at a bar fight earlier. Gunner turns around, sticks the drill gun up under Kai, and then that's the end. Pulls the trigger, Kai's over with. Kai's done. Kai got cattle prodded through the mouth and through the head, and it's game over for that character. I can't remember if a button's pushed or something happens, but everybody, all the main characters, all the heroes escape from their devices, and the cyborg samurai goes nuts and pulls out her lightsabers and starts chopping people in half. I don't remember if Tarek did anything, but he's got the power to talk to animals, and he's shirtless, I'm sure, because he never puts a shirt on this whole movie. Titus grabs the rifle and gets to blasting. Korra pulls out her pistol and gets to blasting. I think Gunner hides. Am I missing any of the hero characters? Because none of them are really important. Blood Axe tells his cronies, who were not locked up for some reason, tells his cronies to go get their ships and fly up and take that shuttle out. As they're trying to get on their ships, the shuttle, which shot them before, starts shooting them again and is destroying all of them. Well, this sends Blood Axe into a frenzy. Blood Axe grabs this big giant spear metal stick thing, charges, and then again, we don't know anything about these characters other than we're just supposed to assume they're awesome. He has a couple of breathing moments. The chick before that was recruited that walked up and said, "Now, here we go again." She sees him, and he has this big last stand kind of a thing where he runs up this crane, jumps, and then drives this spear through the bubble shield, the bubble window of the turret gun. Drives it through, misses the guy's head. The guy's like, oh shit! Dodges it, pulls out his pistol, boop, boop, in the chest. Jason Blood Axe, pulls out the stick, and then drives it home again and kills the guy on a second shot, and then dies. So that's it. He had one speech, which was like 2 sentences. That's Blood Axe. That's it. The chick, the here we go again chick, is shooting. She sees. She loses her shit. And she's the only person in the entire movie who looks like they tried to act. And she's just, like eyes bugged out, lips flopping from how she freaking blood curdles just, and you just don't feel anything when she does that because we don't know who she is. And we don't know who Blood Axe is. We assume they've got some kind of history. We don't know what it is. But we assume there's some kind of history, and she just absolutely just shreds Banshee screams and then goes back to blasting. Kind of like how much I care about this interaction. That happened. Just get the movie over with. Let's do it. As a result, another of the stupidest things in the world that happened in this movie is that Jason Momoa, Blood Axe, reaches down and pulls the lever inside the turret gun, and that makes the entire ship crash. The lever in the turret gun makes the entire ship crash. As the ship is crashing, it separates Cora and Noble from the rest of the group, which gives us the showdown between Cora and Noble. And guess what? It's pretty awesome. I like the character of Noble. I think he's a really good bad guy. So this is the big showdown between him and Cora, and I like Cora. I think if they had so many opportunities to make Cora more than what she was, but they're in a hurry. They got to get this movie over with so they can get to the second movie, which is going to be the Snyder cut of Empire Strikes Back. So they got to get through this. So we have the big fight, and of course it centers around this bone staff. And we are led to believe that when Cora lines up and just flat Joaquin Phoenix from Signs, just Herschel smacks this guy's face with it, and his teeth fly out. He falls off of the platform they're fighting on, and he's over with. And we win. The good guys win, bad guys lose. I actually don't remember what happens after this. Much. After they win, they leave. General Titus says, "This was a great win for the rebellion." As they're pulling Cora back to them, Titus gives a speech about how this was a big blow dealt to the Empire. And that's it. So they leave, and then they go back to the home planet of Cora and Gunner. And now, for some reason, the here we go again chick, who I don't know her name because I'm not sure they ever tell us who her name is. She's now one of the party. She was the only person out of the Blood Axes to survive, and now she's part of the group. We don't know anything about her. We don't know her history. We got one shot of her screaming her ass off, and then another shot of her shooting, and then she's had 3 scenes, and she's now one of the Magnificent Seven. And she's had one scene of "here we go again," one scene of "oh my god," and then one scene of "I'm angry," and then now she's part of the group. They show up and they say again the most lifeless and placeholder script that you possibly could. It's good to be home. Yes, this is home. That's right, it is home. The kind of home that I could die for. Yeah, me too. Let's go home. There's just no, and then these other people are just like the rest of the Magnificent Seven, like, all right, this is our home now too, whatever. It pans out. I had to do a triple take because I thought a goddamn Wendigo had showed up on screen. It pans out, and Jimmy is now king of the forest or some stupid shit like that. It pans out, and Jimmy, who was wearing that flower crown that the water girl gave him at the beginning of the movie, is now wearing, and we've not seen deer as far as I know through this movie, but he's wearing stag antlers, like deer antlers, and he's got a staff. It pans out to that shot of Jimmy. Why? What happened? What happened while we were gone that Jimmy's king of the forest now? Since when did Jimmy become Bambi's dad or whatever happened? So you think the movie's over with, right? No, they got to Star Wars it. So it pans over to Noble. And Noble was laying on Mustafar, and he didn't take the high ground like he was supposed to, and he got chopped up by Obi-Wan Kenobi. The Empire shows up and collects his beaten, broken, desecrated body, flies him back to the mothership. Or I should call it mothership, that's the name of the Empire, ain't it? Flies him back to the flagship, and then they peel his head back, and he's a cyborg or some stupid shit. And they plug some computer into the back of his head, and then they combined 2 things. They combined Star Wars and Demolition Man. So Sylvester Stallone is curled up naked in some kind of weird jelly bubble with all these cords connected to him. And then they send him to the astral plane, or they send his consciousness to the home world where ball sack is at, the region of the Empire. And Noble tells him, I found your daughter, and Regent's like, how is that good news? She's the most badass hero in the entire universe, and you're telling me that she's linked up with the rebellion and now she's leading the rebellion, which we weren't, I guess we're just assuming that's what she's doing now. He turns around and says, you got one chance to make this right, and you better make it right. And he slams his stick on the ground, and Sylvester Stallone falls through the water pit, and he falls back into his bubble, and then the Sidious minions pull a bunch of levers, and they bring him back to life. So Cyborg Noble is now the new Darth Vader of the movie, and then the movie ends. Oh boy. So I didn't do a review immediately after I watched the movie because I wanted to sleep on it, because when I went to bed last night, I really didn't like this movie. Haven't slept on it, I still don't like it. Is it entertaining? Again, I'm going to say that this movie is... It's like going to Chili's and ordering the appetizer, and you order the 3 combo where you get the quesadillas, the egg rolls, and the boneless wings, where the egg rolls are overcooked in the deep fryer for too long and they just taste like grease. The quesadillas are chewy, and the chicken wings are barely battered in any buffalo sauce whatsoever. You got something there. You can eat it. You can consume it. It'll get the job done, but it's not very good. But then you hope that the main entree, the 3-cheese chicken penne that you're getting ready to eat, the second movie, is better. This obviously is the launching pad. This is the first. This is his best attempt to tell his story. It just feels so rushed, and it just feels so vanilla. Not the world, the character development. I think he just assumes that you are supposed to assume that they're awesome. And I know I keep bringing up the Magnificent Seven during this review, but that's kind of how it feels. And in the Magnificent Seven, they do skim over the characters relatively fast, but they do that because they've only got one movie. This is the beginning of, like, this is part 1. Also, another thing that pisses me off is the title of the movie. A Child of Fire. Is that supposed to mean that because her planet got exploded, she's a child of fire? So when I was a kid, I pooped my pants. Does that mean I'm a child of diapers? It doesn't make any sense. I'm going to give this movie an honest 5 out of 10 because that's how it feels. Should you watch it? If you've got Netflix and you're bored, yes. If you like Star Wars, yes. If there's anything else to watch on television, I probably wouldn't watch this. And I actually would recommend, if they end up green-lighting the second movie, then I would recommend watching this movie. Because it feels like there's a lot of potential here. It just got delivered very poorly. There's such a cool universe here. We just don't know, even after a 2.5-hour movie, we don't know anything about it. I hope you guys enjoyed that review. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. While I don't pick apart these movies, I just give you the entertainment value, but I love storytelling and I love talking about the movies. So thank you all for watching. If you got to this point and you've not done so already, don't forget to like and subscribe for more of this. This was kind of sci-fi, dark, deep space, grim, dark kind of horror stuff. I normally do a lot of spooky, scary stuff here, but space is pretty scary. You know what's also really scary is trying to make your own Star Wars. And the scary part about this is that he did it and people paid for it. And the scary part about this is that they made it and it's out there. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.